I'm Elizabeth Doran, President and CEO of North Carolina Theater, which has been proudly producing professional theater and education programming for over 37 years. On behalf of North Carolina Theater, welcome to All In, Community Conversations, a digital series examining theater through the lens of community, diversity, equity, and inclusion, presented by PNC. We are so grateful for all the people who have shown interest in this digital program and its sister series, Backstage at NCT. Even in this difficult time, when we are not able to produce live theater, we are proud to continue to build our identity as a service-oriented, nonprofit arts organization focused on compassion, unity, and the betterment of society. Please follow us on social media and check out all we are now offering digitally. In this series, we have taken a step off the stage and into the audience and community. Over the course of this series, in the past several months, we have been inviting our audiences to come all in with us as we engaged in dialogue with members of various Raleigh area communities to examine the themes of shows that had together formed our 2019-2020 season. We are now in our fifth and final episode of All In. We will be rejoined by our student co-hosts who facilitated incredible conversations on Memphis, edges, and the sound of music. They met with and interviewed artists, leaders, educators, and activists as we explored what it means to be an inclusive, diverse, and equitable community and how theater helps us examine and embody these values. Today, these co-hosts will be joined by more of our young conservatory artists. In today's episode, we'll hear from these young artists as we look to the future. What's next? Has our view of the purpose of theater changed or grown since our first episode last year when we asked that question? What is our role as artists and as a theater company as we emerge into a post-COVID world? Who's better to help us shape and answer these questions than our young people who are invested in our bright future? This conversation will be facilitated by April Perry, one of our fantastic teaching artists. April, I turn this over to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, my name is April Storm Perry. I'm an actress, stand-up comedian, improviser, singer, writer, and teaching artist. I'm an alumni of UNC Chapel Hill, where I received my Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Studies with a concentration in Media Studies. But I spent most of my time developing my craft in the performing arts and teaching in NYC, where I was born. The arts have had such a strong impact on my life, from my first performances in high school, which provided a solid foundation for my life as a performing artist. I moved to New York City a year after graduating college and worked as a freelance makeup artist, as a talent manager assistant, production assistant, TV and film researcher, and office manager for various production companies before transitioning into acting and performing arts primarily, in front of the camera and on stage. In 2015, I did my first volunteer show at a maximum security prison in Ossining, New York. I was Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz with a program called RTA, or Rehabilitation Through the Arts. That experience, where the inmates participating in the program were my castmates, opened me up to teaching arts to more vulnerable populations. It was in these roles that I was able to witness the transformative power of the arts. I then began teaching as a volunteer in the prison and eventually became a teaching artist and program coordinator with Drama Club NYC, a nonprofit that provides theater arts programming to incarcerated youth. And that brings me to now. I'm so happy to continue educating the youth through the arts with NCT and other local theater arts organizations while continuing to grow my professional career as a performing artist. And I am honored to be a part of this very important initiative and to further this conversation of equity and social progress through the arts, particularly through theater. Now let's get started. So to get started, I'm going to put on my teaching artist cap, and I love starting any sort of like new situation playing the story of your name. It's not really a game per se, but it's a really fun way to introduce yourself and to get to know each other. So what we're going to do is we are going to state your name. You're going to say where you're from, who named you, if you know who named you, what your name means, if you know what your name means, and one little tidbit about theater. And I would like to say, what is a piece of theater that really inspired you in your life? So you've got to know me already, and I think that we can go ahead and get started. Who wants to start first? Sarah?
I'll go. Okay. My name is Sarah Bach. My mom named me, I think, and it was from when she was pregnant with me. There was this song on the radio, like called Sarah Beth or something, I think, and she really liked it, so she named me Sarah and put my middle name as Beth. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and a piece of theater that inspired you.
Yes.
Is that the next part? Okay.
Yes.
Probably my first Broadway show was Matilda the Musical. And that was the first time I ever saw kids my age on stage, like in strong, like smart characters. And that made me want to be like them and go into theater. So that was definitely very inspiring for me. And also the last show I saw before the pandemic, which was Kinky Boots, that was very inspiring because I hadn't seen anything like it. And it was just so joyful and powerful. And I really connected with like the message of being unapologetically yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. I remember I used to read the Matilda books when I was like I think in second and third grade, and when the movie came out, I was like, yes. So yeah, I resonate with that as well. And I haven't seen Kinky Boots yet, so I got to put that on my list. So next we can have Ella or Adele, however you'd like to be called.
Hi, my name is Adele. My mom was the one who named me, and the meaning behind Adele is noble and kind. And my mom is part German, and the name is German, so that kind of was kind of a part of her. And in a way, I try to not exactly live by those meanings, but kind of like carry myself with the fact that these are things that I should try to showcase daily and just be nice to other people, because that's basically just being a nice person is cool. And a piece of theater that inspired me was Annie. I saw it when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and it was the first show I ever saw. And I saw it at NC Theater, and that was the show that inspired me to start doing theater, because at the time all I did was dance. So eventually I got into classes at the North Carolina Theater, and I started doing the classes there. I started taking vocal lessons, and eventually I was in Annie at the North Carolina Theater, so it was all full circle, and that was really cool.
Wow. Thank you so much, Adele. I appreciate it. Or Ella, however you like to be called. All right. So next, can we have Alyssa?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Wise. My mom named me. There really isn't any special story behind my name because I was born way early, so my mom really didn't have an opportunity to name me that quickly. So basically, she just got this big book of baby names and just went to the A section and said, "Oh, this is a good name. I'll name her that." So that's basically how I got my name. One piece of theater that inspired me would have to be Carolina Change, because I got the opportunity to perform in Carolina Change as Emmy's understudy, but I still got to do a few shows. And that moment, it I think it really opened my eyes, saying that I wanted to do this full time and that I wanted to do it professionally, which encouraged me to take classes like Adele or Ella, however you want to say her name. Yeah, it inspired me to take more classes and actually research and learn more about theater and what I'm really getting into. So Carolina Change would have to be what it.
Wonderful. How old were you at the time when you saw that?
I was 16 or 17. This would be
Wow.
like the third year, I think.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alyssa. And next, I would love to hear from Alikia.
Hi everyone, my name is Aliki Mwanda, and my dad is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So my name actually means hope to God in Lingala, which is the language that he speaks. And my middle name is Rose, which is my Grammy's first name. So I have a piece of both sides of my family. And the piece of theater that definitely inspires me most is in 2019, I saw Ain't Too Proud on Broadway, and I just remember like feeling so seen. Like it was an all black cast except for the manager. But it was just everyone was so strong, and I remember the characters' exits, and there's like the, like, not the runway, but the little conveyor belt on the edge of the stage, and the way that they left so strong, and they were dying, but it was just like the best piece of theater I've seen in a long time. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alikia. Okay, so next we will have Allison.
Hello, my name's Alison Staples. There's not much of a story behind my name. My mom named me after her cousin that she was really close with, and there were like a couple of other ideas that my parents had that they threw around. One being that I would be named after my dad because he wanted a boy, and we didn't have a boy, so he wanted a namesake. But there's not much else of a story. But a piece of theater that really inspires me is Hadestown. I saw that show in 2019 and I sat front row, and it was just the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed. I was alone for the first time at a Broadway show, and just that the entire story, the cast, it's just amazing. It's just a beautiful piece of theater that I had never experienced theater in that way before. And it's actually, and after seeing it and like being able to reflect on the story, that I have found a lot of my love for it, more so than just sitting in the audience. So yeah, it's a really interesting reflective experience, but I love that show and it was amazing to see.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm learning so much. Like you all are teaching me because I'm like making a little mental note. Okay, I've got to check this show out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah. It's a palindrome, so it's spelled the same forwards and backwards. I was named after my grandfather, who died when my mom was a teenager. My mom named me, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. And a song that has inspired me from The Prince of Egypt, by Stephen Schwartz. The song that really I find meaningful is called When You Believe, because I really love the music. It's just one of those songs that I'll listen to over and over again. And then also I think it has a really great meaning, especially right now. It says, even when hope is frail, if you have a belief, then you can achieve it.
Oh, wow. I love that. I think the idea of like, keeping hope alive is so prevalent, and it's something that we all need to, remember, especially as we've gone through like really dark times and the pandemic. So thank you so much for sharing. I realized I didn't do myself. So, okay, I'm April. My mother named me April. I was named April because I was born in April. Also, my name means forthcoming, and I just so happen to be the fourth child. My unofficial middle name is Storm because I was born during a winter storm in April, and my brothers and sisters used to make fun of me because apparently as a child I had a temper, so they would parallel that to me being a storm, if you say. So yeah. Oh, and I was born in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm a proud Brooklynite, but I grew up in North Carolina. So thank you so much. I hope we've all had a chance to get to know each other just a little bit better. And I think we can go ahead and get started, and let's get into the meat of this all-in conversation. So first, I just want to say that I'm very impressed with all of you. Based off of the previous conversations and all in that I've had a chance to witness, it's obvious that theater has played a unique role in each one of you all's lives. I would love for you to all tell me what theater means to you mid/post pandemic. I'm hoping that it's post pandemic very soon. And how has the role of theater changed, or has it changed for you after participating in and witnessing some of these all in conversations? And who wants to start? Or should I call on someone? All right. Let's just go back in the same order. So Sarah, we'll start with you.
Okay, so I think that because of the pandemic, people are definitely more eager than ever to go back to see a live show, and people are just longing for the connection and the impact that live theater has. And so when I go back and I see my first show, I'm definitely going to cry. So I'm definitely looking forward to that day. And I also think that because of the pandemic, we've had a lot of opportunities to sit back and look at the world and look at all the problems in the world and educate ourselves and grow and look for ways to progress. And I think before that, we didn't always acknowledge the issues. And now in the arts, I think especially people are searching for ways to bring these social issues and topics to life in these shows and make people think, because theater reaches people in a way that no other form really can.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. I mean, I kind of agree with that. I feel like, obviously a lot of the arts things that were happening during the pandemic got shut down, so a lot of artists suffered. But at the same time, I feel like people were looking towards the artists to help express some of the things that maybe they were feeling but didn't know how to feel. So I definitely think there's a big role of the arts during the pandemic. Thank you so much. And I'd love to hear from Ella next. I'm sorry.
So I think that theater, in a way, is kind of an escape because you can walk in, it doesn't matter which role you play in, rather, whether it's in the show or whether you're an audience member, you're going to walk in and walk out different people because shows have a way of changing your perspective on other people's lives because it gives you a chance to look at, for example, how different people of different ethnicities, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds live and how they're treated in different societies. And it gives you a chance to truly accept them even more than you already do. And it gives you a chance to sort of not quite understand, but see how different lives happen, not happen, but how different your life is compared to how other people live. And it's really interesting because you can just see how different people struggle and you can get a better of an understanding of how to help them and how to just be a better person towards them.
I think that's great. I think that theater is kind of like an opening, because you get to open up to other people's very human experience, and we're all connected in one way or the other. So I think it gives us the time and the ability to have empathy for others, where maybe we didn't know that this person has gone through this. So I think that's a really, really great point. Thank you so much. All right, next I would love to hear from Alyssa.
I see theater personally as an educational opportunity because you walk in any audition, you don't know what to expect. Sometimes you know about the show, sometimes you know nothing about the show, but you know it's something that'll be fun to do and it's a great experience to like witness. So I see it as a way to learn and meet new people that could change your life or could change your perspective, like Amadel said. Um, yeah, I see it as an educational purpose and also a way to learn new different things and talents and mm, basically new personalities around your cast and crew, and it can hopefully help you achieve something in the future. So I definitely see it as an education opportunity and as a way to grow, not as an actor, but as a person. And I think since we're into 1 year in this pandemic, I think it's also getting people to reflect on what they've done in the past few years, and also it gives them an opportunity to branch out on new opportunities like virtual classes or how to audition for things on film, because a lot of projects have been happening on film since the pandemic hit, and how to incorporate social distancing and actually perform on live shows and actually record live shows and hopefully stream online so people can still have that feeling of experiencing an actual live show since 1 year. So I definitely see that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made because, I moved from New York back to North Carolina in 2018. And, since the pandemic, I've been able to participate in classes that I used to take in New York and study with teachers that I used to take with in New York. Now I can do that online. So I like the fact that, one positive thing that has come from this is we've found a way to connect with other people when maybe we weren't thinking about that as an option before. So I feel really blessed about that. Okay, I'd love to hear from Alicia next.
Hi, yeah, before I go, is there any way that I could get my laptop charger really quick?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, do what you got to
Oh
do.
my gosh, thank you so much. Okay, I'll be
Yeah.
like 10 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Everybody doing good so far? Are you feeling nervous? No? Good.
I can go ahead and go if that'll be easier, so that
Yeah,
way
of
when Bridget
course.
comes back. Okay.
Wonderful.
I really love this question because my journey with theater throughout this pandemic has been very interesting in a way that I never thought. My outlook on it has changed in a way that I never thought it would. Partly in my interests and what it means to me, and kind of a lot like what Sarah said, being able to sit back and reflect, completely changes our perspective. And for me, I think a lot of the like superficial reasons that I did theater are completely gone because I was just so used to doing it and having it that not having it was a completely different experience, and I had to find the joy and the love that I missed in other things. And that made me appreciate acting so much more. And it made me interested in film and just other aspects of theater that I had never been interested in before. And so I'm actually really grateful for this journey that it has given me because I never would have had it before. And I feel way more like enlightened. And yeah, I just think it's done beautiful things for my outlook and my connection to theater and acting, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's almost like you got to connect your arts with almost like a mission. So not just, I mean, we know it's very fun to be on stage, but like connecting it with a mission is really nice as well. Okay, Aliki, are you ready? Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that theater has taken on a different meaning for me over the pandemic since, I can't be on stage. So the theater that I do get to do is a lot more meaningful. For example, I created this thing last summer called Theater in Color, and we read a bunch of plays written by playwrights of color once a month. And we actually had our last reading yesterday. We read The Unplugging by Yvette Nolan, and she's an Indigenous playwright, and it's Women's History Month. So we had an amazing conversation afterwards about like feminism versus womanism and just stuff like that. So I think that instead of just theater being an outlet for me, it's become more about the audience and the story itself. And of course, I love a good like musical, a good tap number, but I think that doing meaningful, like true, raw theater is so much more important. And I want to be able to do something and say something and leave the audience with something once I'm done.
Wow, congratulations on starting that initiative. That's a big deal. Yes. All right. And last but certainly not least, I would love to hear from Hannah.
Yeah, so I mean, creating your own work, that has been a big thing. There's no jobs. There's the best thing that you can do is, sit down, maybe learn how to write a new song. More people are creating new work that have never, like me even, and that have never even thought about creating their own work. I always thought I was an actor and that I would be given a monologue and I'd practice the monologue. I never thought that I could, create my own things. And then also I think that after the pandemic, that going to shows will be less transactional and that there'll be more of a community with the performers and the audience. So, and just being appreciative of the people around you, the performers on the stage, I think we will be more aware of that and really appreciate theater a lot more.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like that idea of community. I feel like community has definitely strengthened even amongst the challenges of being disconnected. And to be an actor is one thing, and to be able to create your own work as an actor, I feel like it's a much more empowering role because you're not just saying somebody else's words, but you have the opportunity to say what you want to say as well. So thank you all so much. All right, so next question. So my mentor is named Daisaku Akeda, and he has devoted his life to cultural exchange, which he believes promotes understanding amongst people. And he said, quote, "Culture is a bridge. It links not just nations, but social systems. Fight war with culture." So, do you believe that theater and the arts have the power to transform social systems? And if so, how? Does anybody want to start?
I'll go.
Sure.
I think that they definitely do. I think by presenting different people of different cultures and different backgrounds, that it can definitely transform social systems. Because when you see a character on stage, you really connect with them because you get a special look into basically every aspect of their life and every thought they have. And in real life with real people, you don't really get that. So you get a special understanding and connection with the character. And I think that if there's more diversity and inclusion on stage of people with different backgrounds and experiences and cultures, and audiences connect with them, then it's very powerful and it builds more empathy and just a lot more like understanding.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. Yes, Sarah. Okay, I think Alikio was going to say something next.
Yeah, I think that the arts are the best way to get to people, whether it's like very subtly or very in your face. I think that they always are the what shapes society. Especially, I've noticed that theater is very ahead of the game when it comes to like representation. Even though all art forms still have a long way to go, I found that theater is ahead of the curve, and um, I think that I've been trying to decide if the theater that I'd like to create is like reflective of society or reflective of the direction that it should be going in. Um, and I think that it could depend on the issue, but yeah, just all in all, theater does have a very important say in the way that society's going.
Yeah, and bridging those cultural connections. I agree with you. That's a really good point. Being in the pandemic, obviously I've had time to watch, Netflix and all of that good stuff. And even on my on demand, a lot of the things that I was like flipping through, I was like, okay, I know that this is reflective of what society is right now. However, just me being an African American, I am growing tired of seeing the same story because I know it and I know it well. So I am kind of like leaning in the direction of not denying what's happening and not denying the truth of anything, but also creating stories that reflect more of the world that I want to be a part of. So I think that's a really great point that you made. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So we'll do Hannah and then Allison.
The answer to your question, absolutely. I think that theater can be a mirror of society and that theater can stimulate the audience, stimulate conversation, and create change.
Yes, yes.
I
Allison.
believe exactly that as well. And I'm also a firm believer in that characters are what really drives a story and what the heart of a story is. And I believe that seeing a character that may be different from you and that in your normal life you wouldn't necessarily look at a person like that and be like, yeah, I want to know their story. But being in or seeing a character in a show and really like kind of like what Sarah said, getting to know them and getting to see this view of their life, you find things to resonate with you. You find ways to be empathetic even when a person has a completely different life than you. And I think to have that experience in a theater setting will inspire people and has the ability to inspire people to look for that in their real lives and in their normal lives.
Yes, yes. Anybody else want to share with that or add on anything? No pressure. So I know this is all happening kind of like virtually and we're not in the same place, but let's just like close our eyes for a moment and imagine we're in the same space in a circle. And I want everyone to feel comfortable just like opening up this dialogue where I don't have to call on you, but you all kind of just feel each other out. If you feel somebody's about to speak, you can wait and go, but let's like really talk. All right? So we're in a circle now. We're all together in a space, we're connected, and I'm not leading. I'm just here as a part of the conversation. Is that okay? All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about the sound of music. So, to be honest, I had no idea really that much about the story of the sound of music before researching for this all in conversation. And in my research, I learned that her name, the story of the sound of music, is based off of the story of the Trapp family sisters. And that was written by Maria von Trapp in an effort to promote her family's singing group. So when Hollywood producers, first made the offer, at first they only wanted to buy the title, but Maria von Trapp insisted that no, if you're going to take the show, you're going to take the whole show, because she wanted to make sure that her story was told. So why do you all think that the story of The Sound of Music is important? And like, why do you think North Carolina Theater Company, or excuse me, Conservatory chose to produce The Sound of Music? This is a loaded question, so you don't have to answer all the questions. But another question is, how does the story of The Sound of Music and other productions like Memphis and Edges play a larger role in bridging cultural gaps locally in North Carolina? So yeah, feel free to just jump right in.
So I want to talk about Edges because that was the show that I had in my episode of All In.
Mhm.
And I had never listened to it before or even heard of it. I had just heard of it because NCT was doing it, and I actually fell in love with it and fell in love with the concept. And if any of you guys aren't familiar, it's a song cycle of sorts, so there's no really consistent story. It just takes a different type of character, and they have a song that tells a story about whatever their story is, and each character is on the edge of something. So whether that be the edge of change or just a new experience, the edge of love, anything like that. And I really, really love it because I think, especially with everything going on right now with the pandemic, it is such a kind of universal story to tell because everyone is on the edge of something at any point in their life. You know, our society has been on the edge of a lot of things recently. With the election last year and with all of the stuff going on with Black Lives Matter and everything, just society and individuals being on the edge of things, I just felt that Edges was such an important story to be told and to find, similarities between another person's story being told on stage. And I think that's so beautiful and easy to kind of just fix into your own life and see it through yourself. So yeah, I thought it was just a great concept and a great story.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Yes. Does anybody else have anything to add? Yes, Alikia?
I was immediately thinking of Memphis, specifically Colored Woman, that song from Memphis. And the point that I brought up earlier, like showing what society is currently versus what it could be, I think Memphis is an example of showing what it is now, which is important that you have both because sometimes you need to push, but sometimes you also need to expose. And I think that Colored Woman is a great example of that, especially because last summer with the new like organizations that were coming about with like We See You, Why American Theater, and like See Our Truth, just exposing like all the horrors that actors of color go through within the theater industry. I think that Colored Woman is a great example of that. How you just have like when you're a performer of color, they just see you as Black first for me, or Latinx first, or Asian first, and that's the truth. And so that's the exposing part of it. So I think it's great that, especially in this time, NCT is putting on a show like Memphis to be able to expose.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind as you talk about that is agency, like giving agency to, different people's experiences, because we have this beautiful world of theater, but the fact that, yeah, like, unfortunately, racism has a way of seeping into every social construct. So, like, in breaking that down, I think agency and giving voice to what other people kind of struggle with, I think that's the first start, everybody being able to speak up and talk about it with people who may have different experiences from you, but within the creative space of theater where people are more open to hearing it, because that's what theater does and that's what it is. So definitely. Hannah, I saw that you we're gonna chat and say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, the shows Memphis, Edges, and The Sound of Music were chosen specifically to give like a little taste into different backgrounds within the community. So I think that's really important to acknowledge
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and the fact that they are all very different shows, but there's like a there is a through line in each one of those shows. And just like the diversity in the shows itself and the actors that can participate and all that good stuff. Yeah. Anybody else?
I can just a little tidbit, but I think for the show Sound of Music and Memphis specifically, I think they both have a kind of sort of connection dealing with heavy issues. Like for Sound of Music, they have the disconnection between the father and his children, and how their love of music basically dissolved in the household, and how that was their one thing that brought them all together. And where Memphis, it's all about racism and how basically how music kind of took a big part in that, and how some people are allowed to play their music and some people are not. So I feel like those two shows have the connection with music, but also have their issues in telling a story with music.
Yeah. I love that. I love how the Sound of Music also, it, without it being about racism, it still tells the story of like universal themes that people all over the world can experience. So I think that it's another way of like bridging that gap. All right, wonderful. So okay, moving on. What does equity and inclusion mean to you? And why do you think it's important? Yes, Sarah.
I think it means that everybody has a voice, and specifically people listen to everybody's voice. And I think it means that people of all different backgrounds and cultures have a seat at the table, and that's important because we want stories to be told of everybody. And without different voices, there's no different perspectives, and there's no changes to be made. And in theater, especially, I think it's important because we need to tell the story of all different types of people to reach all different types of people. And representation is very important because it makes people feel like they're valid, and they don't have to feel like they can't do something because they don't see somebody who doesn't look like them doing it. And specifically, I know that growing up, I didn't see a lot of Asian people in film or TV or even theater. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And even in theater, sometimes being cast, I'm like, oh, I was only cast because I need more diversity. I'm just like the Asian girl. Like I'm there to add to be a more progressive cast. But I think it's important to have diversity in the cast, but also to be more than just the Asian girl or just the Hispanic girl or the Black girl or something like that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And a lot of the things that I've done in my life, whether it was having to do with work for theater or just bartending, felt like I was the only Black girl. But the way that I tried to show up was, I didn't care how they were seeing me. It's more how I saw myself. I'm showing up as a person. That just happens to be African American. And yes, maybe I do have certain experiences that other people can't relate to, but if I lead with my heart, I found that was able to kind of break down any unseen or unknown barriers, and then I was able to like really just have a heart to heart connection with people from like all over the world. Okay, Ella, I know you had something to say.
I do. I think that inclusivity and equity within a group or within the theater can bring about a sense of community and togetherness, because when everyone's voice is heard, when everyone's opinion is validated by everyone else, it can allow the group to function better, and it can function as a group and as one being rather than individual people. And that can allow for different perspectives on a show. It can allow different variations of a show to happen because everyone has their way of pitching in their individual experiences and voices and creating this big, beautiful show that everyone can take something away from. And I think that it's it's definitely really important to have everyone's voices be heard, because everyone deserves to have their voice heard, and it can just prove that everyone is valid and that everyone deserves a shot at creating something unique.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's like, first of all, it feels so much better. Like, don't you feel good when other people feel good around you? Like, it's just so much more fun to be able to connect with people who are similar, people who are different. It's just such a higher vibration, I find. So, yeah. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to add? Okay, yes,
Hi.
Hannah. Oh, okay, Hannah, then Alyssa. Whatever. It's all good.
So it means equity and inclusion means fairness and equalness of all backgrounds and not putting people in a box and not stereotyping people.
Yep. Yep. Alyssa, just jump right in. You're good.
Yeah, I totally agree with Hannah. And also, I feel like equity and inclusion would mean nobody is judged. Everybody has a place for them. Nobody is judged because of how they look or their background. Everybody is included no matter where you are. And I feel like theater sometimes has accomplished that. For example, Shonda Rhimes' show Bridgerton on Netflix, it has so much diversity, and I am so happy about that. And to see the impact it has made and how many people have watched it, it's so much positivity, and I absolutely love that. And also I want to see shows that have diversity that it's not a format, but I want to see a show where they incorporate diversity on a show that doesn't need diversity. Like for example, Ragtime. You absolutely have to have diversity if you want to do Ragtime. That's like a must. Otherwise, people won't get or feel or understand the story behind it. Whereas you can have diversity in Pride and Prejudice or Beauty and the Beast or shows like that, shows that don't require diversity. That would get amazing positive impacts because of it.
Yeah, it's so funny that you also brought up Bridgerton because one thing I really liked about that was the way that they weaved in, people of different races during that time, which is not something that I don't really think existed during that time, but they didn't make a big deal about it. It was just like, okay, this is what it is. I mean, I know that there was a backstory and everything, but I just found out, from especially from the first episodes, I was like, oh, okay, this is something that I want to see. Like it was aspirational, especially now, especially knowing what's going on with, Meghan Markle and the whole royal family. Like imagine a world where it wasn't a big deal. Imagine a world that it didn't matter. Okay, so this will be a perfect segue into my next question. So I believe that the role of creative artists is to be ambassadors of peace and culture. And I also believe in the power of youth to use their voices and awareness and fresh ideas to carry on the torch of peace, unity, and cultural exchange into the future, to create a better tomorrow. So, what do you believe is your responsibility in creating peace through the arts? And anybody can jump in.
Uh,
Oh, it doesn't matter who goes first. Allison, you want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
So something that I really love about our generation is that we have learned from previous generations' mistakes, and we see it because it still exists. There are still, older people, our parents, our grandparents, people who, racism, homophobia, anything like that, it still exists, and it still exists in people. But I think our generation has done a great job of creating a safe place for other young people, which will inevitably create a safe space for all people. Or, it's impossible to change everyone's mind. And I think that we have been doing that. And I think through social media, because social media is such a controversial thing that has terrible side effects, but it can be a really good thing. And I think our generation has taken it into a really good direction and made it a safe space. And I also believe theater to be that safe space that has inclusion and representation, and people should be able to feel safe in that type of environment. And I hope that our generation is creating that as we grow up.
Yes. Wonderful. I'm snapping. Anyone else? Yes, Alikia.
I think the biggest thing for me personally is even when I just loved performing and that was the only thing that I knew about theater, aside from like other types of it, I knew that I wanted to do it because I would always say, well, what if no one else does it anymore? Then I have to. it was like my little reason. Like if I don't, then who will? And that still rings true to me, especially because when I noticed like the lack of diversity in the shows that I had done, and I felt bad, but I was like, how is that my fault? Like I didn't know, and I guess no one else really knows about the beauty that players of color can like bring to the industry. And it was like scary to try and create something, especially because I'm a kid, and I was like, well, what if no one listens to me and thinks that my idea is awful and bad? But then I again was like, well, if I don't, then who will? And no one was. So I felt like a duty that this is something that's missing, and I think that it deserves to be. Of course, it does, but it deserves to be put, in the front seat. And I think that we all, especially our generation, like Alison was saying, have that mindset of like, it doesn't matter if people say this or that. This is what I believe is right, and I have to go. I have to go make it right.
That's right. Be the change that you want to see in the world. If there's something that you don't see, it's like, why isn't this? Why doesn't this exist? Then create it. Be it. We have that freedom. Like we do have those freedoms to be able to just, if it's not there, you make it. Take responsibility and do it. Yes. Ella, you look like you're about to say something.
Well, I was thinking about the question when Alikia and Allison were going because they had said everything that I wanted to say. But I realized that over the course of the pandemic, because we've had so much time to think about ourselves and our relationships with other people, our role of creating peace doesn't have to be for other people, but it can be for ourselves as well. Because once you're at peace with who you are as a person and what you believe, and you're confident in who you are and what you stand for, and your beliefs, your morals, everything that makes you you, you can become a better person, and you won't have to worry about what other people think of you, because as long as you know who you are, other people's opinions won't matter. So you can help other people find their inner peace, and the cycle just keeps going and going.
Yes, 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 yes. Wonderful. Okay. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I'm gonna combine two questions. One is, what does the ideal world look like for you, and what's next for you? And for that, I would love to hear from everyone. Like, what's next? Who wants to start? Okay, Sarah, yes.
I think in an ideal world, I wouldn't want like a perfect world because that would mean there's like no problems, and I think that would mean there's no progression and no growth. But in an ideal world, I think people would listen to everybody and people would have empathy, which leads to open-mindedness, and open-mindedness, which leads to empathy. But not just empathy, but also like the urge to act when there's a problem, because I feel like a lot of people, they might see something going on in the world and they might be like, oh, that's terrible, but they don't take any action to fix it. And in an ideal world, people would recognize the problems and acknowledge it and take action to fix it. And what's next, I think that I want to keep learning and I want to keep educating myself, because I think, going back to the other question, I think as a young person, that's like our number one responsibility right now. And I also just want to see what happens. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen.
Yes, love that, love that, love that. Okay, yes, definitely, Ella.
So I think that, like Sarah said, I wouldn't want an exactly perfect world, because if everyone had the exact same ideals, the exact same just thoughts about everything going on in the world, then there wouldn't be anything to have conversations about. There would be no change. There would be no peace of mind, because everyone would be thinking the same exact thing, and there wouldn't be any thought diversity in a way, and you wouldn't be able to speak out about your opinion on something because everyone else would have the same exact opinion. But of course, there would be world issues that would be resolved, because that way we wouldn't have to worry about those as much. And for me, what's next is, I think that I'm going to finish up my school show soon, and I'm going to see if I can work on the other aspects of the other different kinds of arts that I'm trying to better myself in. So like my music, writing music, playing the instruments, creating actual physical art with pencils and paper, and just trying to make sure that I have something to fall back on creatively, because I struggled with that during the pandemic, during the big peak in it, because of lack of a creative outlet. So I had to find new ways to embrace the creativity and find ways to have an outlet, so that way it wouldn't all just disappear. And I think that once I get that in hand, then everything will turn out great.
Wonderful. All right. So what's next for everyone else?
Uh,
Alyssa.
Well, same like Sarah and Adele said, there is no such thing as a perfect world, but I do hope that there will be less ignorance and more opportunities for people to create things they want to create because it's what they want to do, which will lead to less conversations and less negative opinions because of it. No more judging. I want more people to learn about the background behind racism and diversity and really get why people are having a strong opinion on this, and hopefully they can have a positive impact on it, and hopefully, actually get to learn something and hopefully change their perspectives on it. But overall, less ignorance, and same as Sarah, the urge to act on something if something is wrong. Even if you don't feel like, even if you don't feel like it's the right time in that moment, still do something about it because you might never know what's going on. And what's next for me? Finish up school and see where COVID takes me in transitioning to college, because it's going to be very interesting how I adapt to college life from high school and how I take classes now, because it's going to be interesting but scary, but I feel like it's going to be an interesting adventure to take.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So we have just a little bit of time left, but I'd still love to hear from everyone. And think about like what's next for you and how it kind of, what are you going to do to push peace forward in your artistic life? Think about it in that way for these last three responses.
I think like immediately, obviously school and stuff, and then continuing work until the summer with TIC, theater and color, because we're taking a summer break. We're not going to do stuff during the summer. And then more specifically to myself, I want to, with TIC, I've been doing a lot more like direction and production work, and I've really liked being on the other side and having a say, because I think that's where the real change gets made. Like, of course, if you're on stage, then people see you, but if you're behind the table, then you make all the decisions, and I think it's amazing. So I'd love to try to do more of that. And I don't know. I think in the moment, everything comes to me. It's hard to like plan what newfangled crazy things I'm going to do, but I'm sure there'll always be something.
Wonderful. Alikia the boss. That's what I'm hearing. And it's even if you don't know what you're going to be doing, it's just kind of going with the spirit of wherever I am, I'm going to make sure to speak up. I'm going to make sure to use my voice. Okay, so Hannah, then Allison, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so I think whatever I do, whether it be performing or directing or whatever, there's so many fields in the industry. I want to feel good about what I'm doing and what I'm producing. I want to do something that aligns with my beliefs and aligns with making the world a better place. And if we can make the world a better place, then we can solve so many problems, and we can do so much by working together. So, sounds cheesy, but it's true.
No, it's not cheesy at all. It is very true. Okay, last but not least, Allison.
So, in my ideal world, people would begin to see the magic within the chaos, because I believe that life should be romanticized. And I've romanticized my life. And I think that leads to what's next for me, in the sense that I've had such an epiphany in my passion that I'm excited to see where I go. and I don't know what that is yet, but I think I have such an interesting outlook on fiction and its importance, and I think that will, I hope to change a lot of people's minds and show people how important that it really is. And a lot like what Sarah said, I'm very curious. I think curiosity is one of the most fun emotions to feel, if that's even an emotion. I don't know. But like, it's fun. It's exciting. I'm curious to see what'll happen and what I'll do.
Yes, I love that. Well, this is wrapping everything up. This has been an amazing conversation. And to all of you change makers who participated in this and anybody watching, just remember that change starts with you. So wherever you are in theater or in life, just keep pushing forward, keep hope alive, and use your voice to create the change that the world needs. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, April, for leading this fantastic discussion. Thank you to our young people who joined us to discuss their ideas and hopes for the future. I'm so excited for the day that we can emerge and are able to join together again soon. Each day seems brighter and more hopeful than the last. Our entire 5-episode series of All In can be accessed in any of our social media outlets and have taken a look at the themes of the 3 shows we were forced to cancel due to COVID-19 and dove deep into them with generous members of various Raleigh communities. We hope that these discussions with our young people, artists, and leaders from our community sparked ideas and connections from the stories that we couldn't stage with themes that are still, if not more relevant today in 2021 than they were when we meant to stage them. Family, inclusion, and connection to community are themes that we have been exploring deeply and through a new lens through this past year. While we have not been able to gather together and we have stayed physically distant, we hope that these conversations have brought us closer together toward our goal of being all in. I'm Elizabeth Doran, President and CEO of North Carolina Theater, and I thank you for coming all in with us. Please be sure to just check out all of our digital offerings, subscribe to our social media pages, and please stay in touch and stay healthy.